Now, what exactly happened to the intellectual dark web? Now, this idea came to me because of yesterday's video that I posted about the split between Joe Rogan and Dave Rubin. And it's really interesting because, as you can see in this picture, this was like the photo that was the cover art for the intellectual dark web. These were all of its members. Obviously, its major members being Joe Rogan, Sam Harris, Dave Rubin, Jordan Peterson, and then the Weinstein brothers. These are really kind of cringy pictures, especially I would say the Brett Weinstein and the Sam Harris ones are pretty cringy. But what happened to the intellectual dark web? Because it really just completely disappeared, right? Like it just completely went away. And the truth is because I think it probably just got a bit stale, but I think that there was no real tethering that they had together, and they started to split off from each other because they started to kind of form these groups and these factions, and they kind of split each other off. And so we've seen Sam Harris criticize Jordan Peterson for his lack of criticism to Donald Trump, somebody that Sam Harris has been uber critical of for a lot of reasons that are different of someone like a Bernie Sanders supporter who would do it. He's more of a Hillary type of guy. He said he wanted someone like Michael Bloomberg, but he disagreed with Jordan Peterson's lack of, criticism, of Donald Trump. He also was a bit perplexed when people were, mad at him for criticizing religion when that's kind of his main thing. And he kind of started to distance himself from Jordan Peterson, and he also started to distance himself from Dave Rubin of the Rubin Report because he found him to be a hack as well. And he would make these kind of, a bit underhanded comments about just saying stuff like, hey, none of these people will criticize Donald Trump. So, one of the quotes was something like that. And Dave Rubin was obviously one of the people in the crosshairs. He's really split off with Dave Rubin. He hasn't appeared on his show in a long time, in over 2 years. And they kind of clicked up, I guess. Sam Harris, kind of seemed to go more in the direction with the Weinstein brothers, and then Jordan Peterson. And by the way, Jordan Peterson kind of got into his whole, medical issue thing. I don't know how he's even doing right now. I don't even know what he's doing right now. But even before then, there was still a fall off that was going on. Although, who knows if that medical issue was going on at the time. But the split off was still kind of happening. And so, Jordan Peterson kind of disappears. But Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro had become really good friends, and they were kind of the more conservative religious folks. And then, the Weinstein brothers and Sam Harris were more, the atheistic folks, and more in the liberal direction. And when it comes to Dave Rubin, he was just going to pick the side of whoever was more popular. And who's more popular, Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro, or the Weinstein brothers and Sam Harris? It's pretty obvious, right? Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro. So that's who he sided with. So they kind of clicked up. They kind of split off because Sam Harris had issues with multiple of the members not criticizing Donald Trump. I don't think he really respected a lot of Jordan Peterson's takes on religion because he found him to just be, someone who's not really being honest in his comments about, if Jesus existed, what it would even be. It would take, what did he say, like multiple days to even, explain what that means. And it's just a lot of crazy stuff. What do you mean by truth? All of this kind of insane, weird Deepak Chopra type of stuff. And so I think he didn't really mess with them. And so I think the Weinstein brothers were probably more caught in the crosshairs than anything else because I think they were probably more in both camps. But I think that they just ended up splitting off. I think it got really uninteresting. And Joe Rogan also, by the way, remember yesterday's video obviously was talking about how Joe Rogan, or Dave Rubin actually came out on his Q&A, and he basically explained that he tried reaching out to Joe Rogan nonstop to come on his podcast again for his new book that came out, but he got literally zero response from Joe Rogan, like none, which is insane. So he obviously split off because after having Candace Owens on his show and Dave Rubin this previous time in 2018, I think he realized that he and her are grifters and frauds, and he doesn't respect them in any way, shape, or form. And so he kind of split off from them. and he started to have his disagreements with Jordan Peterson as well. And, I think he just kind of lost interest as well, it seemed like, to me at least. He seemed to be a little flare, but it just kind of died out. Just kind of as any other thing does, right? It kind of flares up and then just dies out, right? So, I think that at the end of the day, I think that that's what happened. I think that at the end of the day, that's what happened. So, they kind of clicked up, they kind of disappeared, and they didn't really vibe with each other all that much. And then Dave Rubin was just in the camp of like, okay, I'm just going to go with whoever's more popular, whoever's going to get me more views on my channel. And so that's kind of what he did. But, I think it just ended up splitting off because of clicking and general just dying out of the flame type of thing. And, I guess that was the end of the intellectual dark web. Are we ever going to see a revival of the intellectual dark web? I don't know. We'll have to see.